Taesung pushed open the door to his apartment, balancing a bag of groceries in one arm. He had bought fresh strawberries, the kind Lyra loved. She always said they reminded her of the bioluminescent fruits on her home planet, though the taste was completely different. He smiled, thinking about how her face would light up when she saw them. The apartment was dark. That was the first thing he noticed. Lyra always kept at least one lamp on, claiming the soft light helped her think. The second thing he noticed was the silence. No music playing. No sound of her moving around in the kitchen or working at her desk. "Lyra?" he called out, flipping the light switch. The living room looked wrong. Empty spaces on the shelves where her books used to sit. The small sculpture she brought from Veloth, the one that changed colors based on temperature, was gone from the side table. Taesung's heart began to beat faster. He dropped the groceries and rushed through the apartment. The bedroom closet stood open, half empty. Her clothes were gone. The bathroom counter, usually cluttered with her strange Velothian skincare products, was bare. He ran back to the living room, spinning around, looking for any sign of her. That's when he saw the note on the kitchen table. It was written by hand on plain white paper. Lyra's handwriting, the careful way she formed Earth letters, was unmistakable. Taesung's hands shook as he picked it up. "Please forget me, human. I'm sorry. Don't look for me." He read it 3 times, 4 times. The words didn't make sense. They had been married for 3 years. 3 happy years. Just last week they had talked about adopting a pet. Just yesterday morning she had kissed him goodbye and told him she loved him. What had changed? Taesung pulled out his phone and called her. It went straight to a disconnected message. He tried again. Same thing. He called the Velothian embassy, his fingers fumbling with the numbers. "I need to speak to someone about a missing Velothian citizen," he said when someone finally answered. The embassy clerk was polite but unhelpful. "We have no record of any missing persons reports. Perhaps your friend returned to Veloth for personal reasons?" "She's not my friend. She's my wife, and she wouldn't just leave without telling me." "I'm sorry, sir. Without a formal missing persons report filed with Earth authorities, there's nothing we can do. Perhaps you should contact your local police." Taesung ended the call and immediately dialed the police. They were even less helpful. An adult leaving their home wasn't a crime. She had taken her own belongings. There was no sign of forced entry or struggle. The officer suggested that maybe she needed space. Maybe the marriage had problems Taesung didn't want to see. "You don't understand," Taesung said, his voice breaking. "She wouldn't do this. Something's wrong." But the officer just gave him a case number and told him to call back if he found evidence of foul play. Taesung sat on the couch, the note still in his hand. He thought back to the day they met. It was 4 years ago at an interspecies cultural exchange event. He had been presenting research on cross-species medical compatibility. She had been in the audience, her bioluminescent markings glowing soft blue under the conference room lights. After his presentation, she approached him with questions. Smart questions that showed she understood the science. They had coffee that day, then dinner the next week, then regular dates. She was fascinated by everything human. She wanted to try every food, visit every museum, understand every custom. But she was also guarded about her own past. She rarely talked about Veloth or why she came to Earth. "I wanted something different," she would say when he asked. A fresh start. He hadn't pushed. Everyone had parts of their past they didn't want to discuss. He had simply been happy she chose to build a future with him. The wedding had been beautiful. They blended human and Velothian traditions. She wore white like a human bride, but her bioluminescent markings glowed in patterns that told the story of their courtship in the visual language of her people. His parents had cried. Her family hadn't attended. She said the journey from Veloth was too expensive, but Taesung always suspected there was more to it. He stood up and began searching the apartment more carefully. Maybe she left another clue. Maybe she left something that would explain why she ran. He looked through drawers, checked under the bed, searched through the closet. Then he found it, behind a loose panel in the back of her desk drawer. A datapad, one of the old Velothian models, small and sleek. He powered it on, encrypted. Of course it was encrypted. Taesung stared at the device. Breaking encryption was illegal, but so was leaving your husband without explanation. He connected it to his computer and started running decryption programs. It would take hours, maybe days. His phone rang. It was Hana, his colleague from work. "Hey, you didn't show up for the department meeting." Everything okay? Lyra's gone, he said, the words feeling unreal as he spoke them. Gone? What do you mean, gone? He explained everything. The empty apartment, the note, the unhelpful authorities. Hannah listened without interrupting. Come over, she said when he finished. You shouldn't be alone right now. I need to figure out what happened. You can figure it out from my place. Bring the data pad. I have some software that might help. Taesung looked around the empty apartment one more time. The silence felt suffocating. He grabbed the data pad and left. At Hannah's apartment, they worked together on the encryption. Hannah was better with computer systems than he was. She ran program after program, trying different approaches. They ordered food neither of them ate. Hours passed. Finally, at 2 a.m, something worked. The datapad unlocked. Files appeared on the screen. Dozens of them. All written in Velothian script. Can you read that? Hannah asked. Some of it. Hold on. Taesung opened the translation software and started feeding the files through it. The first few entries were like diary entries. Lyra talking about her day, her thoughts, her feelings about living on Earth. Then the tone changed. The entries became worried, scared. She mentioned something called the Remembrance Protocol. She talked about being found, about having to run. The last entry made Taesung's blood run cold. They found me. I have to leave before they hurt him. I will carry the memory of every moment we shared, every word he spoke, every time he smiled at me. It will torture me for the rest of my life, knowing I can never see him again. But he will be safe. That has to be enough. Taesung looked at Hannah. Someone threatened me. That's why she left. She's trying to protect me. Protect you from who? He scrolled through more entries, translating as fast as he could. Names appeared. The memory keepers. The council, witnesses, a genocide. I don't know, he said. But I'm going to find out. And I'm going to find her. Hannah put her hand on his shoulder. Then you're going to need help. Taesung nodded, staring at the screen. The note said to forget her. But he never would. He couldn't, not when she was in danger. Not when she sacrificed everything to keep him safe. He would find her. No matter what it took. Taesung spent the next 3 days barely sleeping. He read through every entry in Lyra's journals, translating each word carefully. The picture they painted was dark and complicated. Lyra wasn't just a cultural exchange visitor. She was a refugee. She had witnessed something terrible on Veloth, something the government wanted to keep hidden. The journals mentioned the memory keepers dozens of times. They were some kind of security force on Veloth, but they seemed to have power beyond normal police. They hunted people who knew too much, and Velothians, according to Lyra's notes, had perfect memory. They never forgot anything. Ever. Taesung tried to imagine that. Every embarrassing moment, every painful experience, every loss and trauma, permanently carved into your mind with perfect clarity. Never fading, never softening, always there, as fresh as the day it happened. One entry explained it in Lyra's words. Humans ask me why I seem sad sometimes. How can I explain? I remember everything. My mother's death 15 years ago feels like yesterday. The first time someone was cruel to me as a child, I can replay it perfectly. Every goodbye, every disappointment, every fear, they're all still happening in my mind. Humans forget. They say time heals. But time doesn't exist the same way for us. The past is always present. That explains so much about Lyra. The way she sometimes stared into space with tears in her eyes. The way she held on to happy moments so tightly, as if trying to balance out the weight of painful memories. The way she told him over and over, I want to remember this. Now she was gone, and according to her journal, she would remember him perfectly forever. Every moment they shared would stay with her, unchanging and clear for the rest of her life. The thought broke his heart, but he couldn't just sit in his apartment and mourn. He needed answers. He needed to find her. Hannah helped him research the Velothian community in Seoul. There was an official community, the ones who registered with the embassy and followed all the rules. But there was also an underground, Velothians who came to Earth through unofficial channels, refugees, criminals, people running from something. If Lyra was in trouble on Veloth, maybe someone in the underground knows about it, Hannah suggested. They started in the Alien District, a neighborhood in southern Seoul where immigrants from dozens of worlds lived and worked. The area was legal, but just barely. Earth authorities mostly left it alone as long as things stayed peaceful. Tae-sung had been here before with Lyra, visiting restaurants and shops, but he'd never gone deeper, into the parts tourists didn't see. The information broker they found was human. His name was Jiwoo, and he operated out of a back room in a noodle shop. For a price, he could connect people who needed things with people who provided things. No questions asked. "I'm looking for a Velothian," Tae-sung said, sliding an envelope of cash across the table. "My wife, she disappeared a few days ago." Jiwoo counted the money with quick, practiced fingers. Velothians don't usually disappear without reason. Maybe she wanted to disappear. Someone threatened her. "Threaten me. I need to know who." The broker studied him for a long moment. "You know what you're getting into? Velothian politics are nasty. The memory keepers have a long reach." Tae-sung's heart jumped. "You know about the memory keepers?" "Everyone in this business knows about them. They're not just government agents. They're true believers. They think Velothian culture is sacred, that their perfect memory makes them special. Anyone who threatens that gets eliminated." Jiwoo leaned back in his chair. "If your wife ran from them, she's either very brave or very stupid. Can you help me find her?" "I don't know where she is, but I might know someone who does. There's a Velothian who comes through here sometimes. Goes by the name Kai. He helps people get off-world when they need to vanish. If your wife left Earth, he might have helped her." Jiwoo gave Tae-sung a location and a time. "A warehouse near the port, midnight, come alone." Hana didn't like it. "This could be a trap. You don't know these people." "I don't have a choice," Tae-sung said. "Every day I wait, Lyra gets farther away." At midnight, Tae-sung stood outside the warehouse. The neighborhood was dark and quiet. Loading docks stretched out to his left, cargo containers stacked like building blocks. He checked the address 3 times. This was the place. A door opened. A figure emerged from the shadows. Velothian. Male. Taller than Lyra, with darker skin and bioluminescent markings that glowed a deep red. His face was scarred, one marking disrupted by a jagged line across his cheek. "You're Tae-sung," the Velothian said. It wasn't a question. "You're Kai?" The Velothian nodded. "Jiwoo said you're looking for someone, a Velothian woman. Your wife. Her name is Lyra. She left suddenly. No explanation. I think the memory keepers are after her." Kai's expression hardened. "If the memory keepers are involved, you should forget about her. Go home, live your life. Be grateful you're not already dead. I can't forget her. I love her." "Love." Kai said the word like it was foreign. "Humans in your love. You feel it so strongly, but then you move on. You forget. You heal. We don't have that luxury. Then help me. You know something." "I can see it." Kai was quiet for a long time. His bioluminescent markings pulsed slowly, a rhythm Tae-sung didn't understand. Finally, he spoke. "Your wife didn't tell you the truth about why she left Veloth, did she?" "She said she wanted a fresh start." "That's a lie. Or at least not the whole truth." Kai crossed his arms. "She witnessed something. A government operation. The memory keepers were eliminating a group of Velothians. Special ones, different. Different how? Velothians are born with perfect memory. It's part of our biology. But sometimes, rarely, a mutation occurs. Some Velothians are born with the ability to forget. Not completely, not like humans, but they can let go of memories over time. They can heal from trauma. They can change their minds about things." Kai's voice was bitter. "The Council of Memories considers them abominations. Threats to our culture and identity. They call them the Forgotten." Tae-sung felt sick. "They kill them? Just for being different? Not just kill, erase, remove them from history. Make it like they never existed. Your wife saw a memory keeper squad eliminate an entire family of the Forgotten. Parents, children, all of them." Kai's markings flared brighter. "She tried to help. She smuggled some of the Forgotten off-world before she had to run herself. The memory keepers have been hunting her ever since. She's the only witness left. Where is she now? I don't know. But I can tell you where she was going. There's a place, a station on Europa, Jupiter's moon. It's neutral territory. A lot of people who need to disappear end up there." Kai pulled out a small data chip. "Coordinates. And some advice. If you go there, don't tell anyone you're looking for her. The memory keepers have informants everywhere." Tae-sung took the chip. "Why are you helping me?" "Because I was one of them. A memory keeper. I believed the propaganda. I thought we were protecting our culture. His scarred marking seemed to glow darker. Then I met one of the forgotten. A young girl. She was happy. Actually happy. In a way I'd never seen a Velothian be happy before. And I was ordered to kill her. He looked away. I let her go instead. Helped her escape. The keepers did this to my face as punishment before I fled. Now I help people like your wife. People who deserve a chance to live. Thank you, Tai-Sung said. Don't thank me yet. Europa Station is dangerous. And if you find your wife, if you bring attention to her, the memory keepers will come. They'll kill you both. Kai turned to leave, then paused. Your wife asked me to forget her. She knew if the memory keepers traced her to you, you'd be in danger. She left to save your life. Maybe you should respect that. Would you? Taesung asked. If you love someone, would you just forget them? Kai's laugh was dark. I'm Velothian. I couldn't forget even if I wanted to. That's the curse. He walked back into the shadows. Be careful, human. Love makes us do stupid things. At least you can forget the pain if this goes wrong. Taesung stood alone in the warehouse district holding the data chip. Europa. He had to get to Europa. He had to find Lyra and warn her. Or help her. Or just see her one more time. He pulled out his phone and made arrangements he knew were probably illegal. Cargo freighters heading to the outer system. No questions asked. Cash only, Hana was right. This was probably stupid. Possibly suicidal. But Taesung didn't care. Lyra had sacrificed everything to protect him. The least he could do was return the favor. The cargo freighter smelled like metal and old engine oil. Taesung sat in a tiny passenger compartment that was really just a storage closet with a bench welded to the wall. The ship's captain, a man named Inho with gray hair and suspicious eyes, had taken his money and asked no questions. That was good. Taesung didn't want to explain why a xenobiologist from Seoul was traveling to Europa Station without proper authorization. The journey would take 3 weeks. 3 weeks in this cramped space, eating recycled food and trying not to think about what he would find when he arrived. Or worse, what he wouldn't find. Maybe Lyra had already moved on from Europa. Maybe the memory keepers had already found her. Maybe this whole trip was pointless. But he couldn't turn back now. The ship had already left Earth's orbit. Through the small window, he watched his home planet shrink to a blue marble, then a dot, then nothing. To pass the time, Taesung thought about Lyra. Not just the recent memories, but all of them. Their first date at that awful coffee shop where the machine was broken. Their second date at the museum where they spent 4 hours just talking in front of a painting. The night he proposed, nervous and fumbling with the ring. The morning after their wedding, waking up to find her watching him sleep. I want to remember this exactly, she had said. The way the light hits your face. The sound of your breathing. This feeling. Everything. At the time, he thought it was romantic. Now he understood. She was preparing herself. Storing up good memories to carry with her because she knew she might have to leave. She knew every happy moment would have to last forever. Unchanging while she ran from people who wanted her dead. The thought made him angry. What kind of society hunted people for being able to forget? What kind of government murdered children for having a genetic difference? Lyra had tried to explain Velothian culture to him once. How they valued memory above everything. How their art, their history, their entire identity was built on the idea that nothing should ever be lost. We don't have photographs, she said. We don't need them. We remember perfectly. A Velothian poet can recite every poem they've ever read, word for word. A Velothian historian carries entire libraries in their mind. It's beautiful in a way, but also painful, Taesung had said. Yes, also painful. Now he understood just how painful. Every person the memory keepers killed, other Velothians would remember forever. The witnesses couldn't forget what they saw, couldn't move on, couldn't heal. They carried those deaths with them, perfect and clear for their entire lives, unless they were silenced too. Captain Inho knocked on the compartment door. Mealtime. Come eat. The ship's galley was small, just a table and a food processor that created meals from protein paste and synthetic vegetables. It tasted terrible, but it was food. Inho ate silently, watching Taesung with those suspicious eyes. You running from something? The captain finally asked. Looking for someone. Ah, even worse, Inho laughed. People who go to Europa are usually running. People who follow them there are usually fools. Which are you? The fool, I guess. At least you're honest. The captain pushed a container of something that might have been soup across the table. Eat more. You're too skinny. If you get into trouble on Europa, you'll need strength. Over the next week, Tai-Sung learned more about Europa Station. Inho had been making runs out there for 15 years. The station was built inside the ice moon's crust, a collection of tunnels and chambers that grew larger every year as more refugees and outcasts arrived. There was no real government, just loose agreements between the various groups who lived there. It's not safe, Inho warned. Keep your head down. Don't trust anyone. And don't ask too many questions. People go to Europa to disappear. They don't like others poking around. I just need to find one person, then I'll leave. Sure, that's what they all say. The ship passed Mars, then the asteroid belt. Jupiter appeared ahead, massive and beautiful, its clouds swirling in patterns that would have amazed Tae-Sung if he wasn't so focused on his mission. Europa came into view, a white ball marked with red cracks like veins. The station's docking bay was buried under 100 meters of ice. The ship descended through a tunnel that looked barely wide enough, ice walls glowing in the ship's lights. Finally, they reached a chamber carved from the ice itself, filled with ships of all sizes and designs. This is as far as I go, Inho said. You want to return to Earth, you find me within a month. After that, I'm not waiting. Tae-Sung thanked him and stepped off the ship. The station was cold even with the environmental systems running. He could see his breath. Around him, dozens of beings moved through the docking area. Humans, Velothians, species he didn't recognize. Everyone looked tired. Everyone looked like they were carrying secrets. He made his way into the main station. The corridors were narrow, carved from ice but reinforced with metal. Shops and stalls lined the walls, selling everything from food to weapons to forged identity documents. Music played from somewhere, strange and haunting. The smell of cooking food mixed with machine oil and unwashed bodies. Tae-Sung had no idea where to start looking. The station was bigger than he expected, a maze of tunnels and chambers. He could search for months and never find Lyra. He needed help. But Kai's warning echoed in his mind. Don't tell anyone you're looking for her. He found a small food stall and bought something that looked like noodles. The vendor, a human woman with tired eyes, took his money without comment. Tae-Sung ate slowly, watching the crowd, hoping to see a familiar face. A Velothian woman with bioluminescent markings that glowed soft blue. Days passed. He rented a tiny room in a section of the station that housed refugees. The room was just a bed and a storage locker, but it was warm and relatively safe. He spent his days walking through the station, learning the layout, listening to conversations. He heard dozens of languages, saw people from worlds he'd only read about, but no sign of Lyra. He began to lose hope. Maybe she wasn't here anymore. Maybe she'd moved on to another hiding place. Maybe he'd come all this way for nothing. Then on the 5th day, he saw something. A flash of blue light in the crowd. Bioluminescent markings. He pushed through the people, trying to get closer. The figure moved quickly, weaving through the market. Tae-Sung ran, calling out, Lyra, Lyra, wait. The figure stopped, turned. It was her. Definitely her. Same face, same markings, same eyes that he'd looked into 1,000 times. But the expression on her face wasn't joy. It wasn't relief. It was terror. She grabbed his arm and pulled him into a side corridor away from the crowd. Her grip was strong, almost painful. When they were alone, she turned on him, her markings flaring bright with emotion. What are you doing here? She demanded. How did you find me? I had to find you. You left without explaining. I need to know why. I told you why. The note said everything you needed to know. The note said to forget you. But I can't do that, Lyra. I love you. She closed her eyes. For a moment, he thought she might cry. But when she opened them again, her expression was hard. You shouldn't have come here. You've put us both in danger. Kai told me about the memory keepers, about the forgotten, about what you witnessed. Her markings went dark. Kai shouldn't have told you anything. Now you know too much. I want to help you. Help me. Tae-Sung, you're human. You don't understand what you're up against. The memory keepers don't forget. They don't give up. They will hunt me until I'm dead, and now they'll hunt you too. She turned away. You should leave. Go back to Earth, find someone else, someone safe. I don't want someone else. I want you. You can't have me. She spun back, her voice breaking. Don't you understand? I left you to save you. Every day I stay away from you is torture. I remember everything, Tae-Sung. Every morning waking up next to you. Every meal we shared. Every time you laughed at my jokes. It's all still there, perfect and clear like it just happened. And it always will be. Forever. That's my burden. Tears ran down her face. But at least you were safe. At least I knew you could forget me and move on and be happy. I don't want to forget you. I don't want to move on. Before she could respond, an explosion rocked the station. The floor shook. Alarms began to blare. People screamed in the distance. Lyra's expression changed to fear. They're here. The memory keepers found me. She grabbed his hand and ran. They ran through corridors filled with smoke and panicking people. Another explosion shook the station. Somewhere behind them, Tae-sung heard shouting in Velothian. The memory keepers were searching for Lyra, and they weren't being subtle about it. Lyra pulled him down a side passage, then through a door marked with symbols he didn't recognize. They descended narrow stairs carved into the ice, going deeper into the moon's crust. The temperature dropped. Frost formed on the walls. Their breath came out in clouds. Where are we going? Tae-sung gasped. Somewhere safe. I hope. They reached the bottom of the stairs and entered a large chamber. It was warmer here, heated by generators that hummed in the corners. The space was filled with people. Velothians mostly, but also a few humans and other species. They all looked up as Lyra and Tae-sung entered. Many had weapons. A Velothian woman stepped forward. She was older. Her bioluminescent markings faded to pale blue. Scars crossed her face and arms. But her eyes were sharp and alert. Lyra, the woman said. You brought someone. Nari, this is Tae-sung. My husband. The woman's eyes widened. You're human? The one you said you left behind? He found me, and the memory keepers followed. Lyra looked at the others in the chamber. We need to evacuate. They'll find this place eventually. We're not running anymore, Nari said firmly. We've been running for years. It's time to fight back. Fight back? Against the memory keepers? Against the entire council? Lyra shook her head. That's suicide. Maybe, but I'd rather die fighting than spend the rest of my life hiding in the ice. Nari turned to Tae-sung. Your wife is a hero, human. Did she tell you that? She saved dozens of the forgotten, helped them escape Veloth before the keepers could execute them. She risked everything. She didn't tell me much, Tae-sung admitted. She just left. To protect you. The keepers threatened to kill anyone who helped her. Anyone who knew what she knew. Nari's expression softened. I'm sorry you got dragged into this, but since you're here, you should know the truth. All of it. Over the next hour, Nari explained everything. She had been a memory keeper herself once, one of the highest ranking. She believed in their mission, protecting Velothian culture and identity. Then she discovered the truth about the forgotten. The council told us they were dangerous, Nari said. Unstable. That their ability to forget made them unpredictable and violent. We believed them. We did terrible things because we believed them. Her voice shook. Then I met a group of the forgotten. A whole community, living quietly on the edge of Velothian territory. They weren't dangerous. They were happy, peaceful. They had families and art and lives full of joy. Real joy. Not the kind we Velothians fake to hide our pain. She had tried to report what she found to her superiors. Instead, they ordered her to eliminate the community. Every man, woman, and child. When she refused, they tried to eliminate her too. She barely escaped. I've been gathering evidence ever since, Nari explained. Proof of what the council has done. How many they've killed. The lies they told. If we can present this evidence to the Galactic Council, we might be able to stop them. The Galactic Council? Tae-sung asked. They have the power to intervene? If they choose to. Genocide is illegal under galactic law, but we need undeniable proof, and we need to present it publicly, where the council can't suppress it. Nari looked at the others in the chamber. The Galactic Summit is happening on Mars in 2 weeks. Leaders from every member species will be there. If we can broadcast our evidence during the summit, the whole galaxy will see what Veloth has done. That's impossible, Lyra said. Security at the summit is incredible. You'd never get close enough to access the broadcast systems. Not impossible, just very difficult, Nari smiled grimly. And that's where you come in. Both of you. Tae-sung looked at Lyra, confused. What do you mean? Nari pulled up a holographic display. It showed the summit venue on Mars, a massive station orbiting the planet. Security is focused on preventing weapons and unauthorized aliens. But humans with proper credentials? They barely check them. You're a xenobiologist, Taesung. You have legitimate reasons to attend the summit. You've published research. You're respected in your field. You want me to smuggle the evidence into the summit? More than that. We want you to broadcast it. We have the technical means to access the system, but we need someone who won't be suspected, someone who can get close without raising alarms. Nari looked at Lyra. And we need you there too, as a witness. Your testimony combined with the evidence will be undeniable. Lyra shook her head. This is too dangerous. If the memory keepers find out, they already know where you are, Nari interrupted. They're attacking the station right now. You can't hide anymore. None of us can. Either we fight back now or we spend the rest of our lives running until they catch us. She turned to Taesung. I know we're asking a lot. You didn't sign up for any of this. But you came here for a reason. You love her. If you really want to help her, this is how. Taesung looked at Lyra. She was scared, he could see it in her eyes. But there was something else there too. Hope. The first real hope he'd seen since finding her. What do you need me to do? He asked. Nari smiled. First, we need to get off this station before the memory keepers tear it apart. I have a ship hidden in the lower docks. Then we need to get you credentials for the summit, and we need to implant the evidence in a way that can't be detected. Implant it where? In you, a bio-encrypted chip, undetectable by normal scanners. The data will be encoded in your own DNA temporarily. It's illegal technology, but it works. The plan was insane. The whole thing was insane. But Taesung had come all this way. He'd risked everything to find Lyra. What was a little more risk? Okay, he said. I'll do it. Lyra grabbed his arm. Taesung, you don't have to do this. I can find another way. There is no other way. You said it yourself, you can't keep running. And I can't go back to Earth knowing you're out here in danger. He took her hand. We do this together. Like we should have from the beginning. Before Lyra could respond, the chamber shook. Ice dust fell from the ceiling. The lights flickered. Someone shouted from the entrance. They've breached the lower levels. They're coming. Nari moved quickly, shouting orders. People grabbed bags and equipment. Weapons were distributed. Within minutes, the chamber was emptying through a back passage that led deeper into the ice. Move, Nari urged. The ship is 10 minutes away. We need to reach it before they cut us off. They ran through tunnels so narrow Taesung had to turn sideways to fit. The ice glowed with bioluminescent algae that someone had planted here, providing dim light. Behind them he heard sounds of fighting. Energy weapons firing. People screaming. The tunnel opened into a hidden docking bay. A small ship waited there, engines already warming up. People piled inside, filling every available space. Taesung found himself pressed against Lyra, her bioluminescent markings casting blue light on his face. I'm sorry, she whispered. I never wanted you involved in this. I know, but I am involved, and I'm not leaving you again. The ship's engines roared to life. The bay doors opened, revealing Europa's icy surface and the black space beyond. They launched just as memory keeper forces burst into the bay, weapons firing. Energy bolts struck the ship's shields, but they held. In seconds, they were clear, accelerating away from the moon. Taesung looked back at Europa Station through a window. Lights flickered across its surface where the fighting continued. He thought about Captain Inho, hoped the old man got out safely. He thought about all the refugees still trapped there. They'll be okay, Lyra said, reading his expression. The memory keepers aren't here for them. Only for us. Nari appeared in the doorway to the cockpit. We're clear. Setting course for Mars. We have 12 days until the summit. She looked at Taesung. Are you ready to save the galaxy, human? Taesung laughed, a slightly hysterical sound. No, but I'll do it anyway. Lyra squeezed his hand. That's very human of you. What do you mean? Doing impossible things even when you're scared. Even when you know you'll probably fail. That's what makes humans special. Her markings glowed brighter. You forget that things are impossible, so you do them anyway. The ship jumped to faster speeds, leaving Jupiter behind. Ahead lay Mars, the summit, and a chance to expose the truth that Veloth had killed to hide. Taesung knew the odds were against them, but he also knew he couldn't back down now. Not when Lyra needed him. Not when so many had already died. He would do the impossible, because that's what humans did. They forgot that some things couldn't be done, and they did them anyway. The ship was cramped and uncomfortable, but it was safe. For now. Taesung spent the first 2 days recovering from the chaos on Europa and trying to understand the plan. Nari showed him the evidence they had collected. Video recordings, testimonies, documents that detailed the systematic elimination of the forgotten across decades. It was overwhelming, horrifying. But what struck him most were the forgotten themselves. There were 15 of them on the ship, refugees who had escaped the purges. Taesung expected them to be angry, traumatized, broken. Instead, they seemed lighter than the other Velothians. They laughed more. They told jokes. They seemed to actually enjoy life in a way that Lyra and Nari never quite did. One of them, a young woman named Rin, explained it to him while they shared a meal in the ship's tiny galley. "We can forget," she said simply. "Not everything. Not immediately, but over time, painful memories fade. We can learn from our past without being trapped by it. We can forgive and move on. It's not weakness. It's survival." "Lyra told me that Velothians consider memory sacred," Taesung said. "They do, and in some ways it's beautiful. Velothian art, music, history, it's all based on perfect recall. Nothing is ever lost, but nothing is ever released either." Rin's bioluminescent markings pulsed gently. "I remember my parents being killed by memory keepers. But that memory has softened. It doesn't control me anymore. I can think about the good times with them without the trauma overwhelming everything. That's what my people fear. They think if we forget the bad things, we'll forget everything. But that's not how it works." Taesung thought about his own life, his own losses. His grandmother had died when he was 12. The grief had been enormous at the time. But over the years it faded. Now he could remember her with warmth instead of pain. He could think about the cookies she made, the stories she told without crying. Time had healed the wound. For Velothians, that wound would never heal. Every loss would stay fresh forever. Every trauma would remain vivid. He couldn't imagine living like that. "You're lucky," he told Rin, "having the ability to forget." "I know. But try telling that to the Council. To them, we're abominations, proof that Velothian superiority isn't real. That's why they want us dead. We threaten their entire identity." Over the next week, Nari prepared Taesung for the summit. She had forged credentials that identified him as a xenobiologist, presenting research on interspecies medical compatibility. It was close enough to his real work that he could fake it if questioned. The bio-encrypted chip containing the evidence was implanted under his skin, near his shoulder blade. He could feel it there, a small, hard bump carrying the weight of dozens of lives. Lyra spent hours coaching him on what to expect. Security procedures, who to avoid, how to act natural. But mostly they just talked. Really talked for the first time since she left Earth. "Why didn't you tell me?" he asked one night when they were alone in a storage compartment that had been converted into sleeping quarters. "About the forgotten, about what you witnessed. Why didn't you trust me?" "I did trust you. That's why I didn't tell you." She lay next to him on the narrow bunk, her markings providing the only light. "The more you knew, the more danger you were in. I thought if I just disappeared, if I left cleanly, you could move on. You could forget me and be safe. I could never forget you. But you could have, eventually. Humans do that. You fall in love again. You build new memories that overlay the old ones. It would have hurt for a while, but then you would have healed." Her voice was sad. "I'll never heal from leaving you. I'll remember the moment I walked out of our apartment forever. I'll remember writing that note, packing my things, looking back one last time. It's all still there, perfect and clear, and it always will be." Taesung took her hand. "Then we'll make new memories. Better ones, strong enough to balance out the bad. That's not how it works for us. Then we'll figure out how to make it work. Together." She was quiet for a long moment. Then she asked the question that had clearly been bothering her. "Why did you come after me? You could have accepted my note and moved on. Why risk everything?" "Because I love you." "Because you're my wife." "Because walking away would have been the easy thing, and sometimes the right choice is the hard one." He smiled. "Also, I'm human. We're stubborn. We don't give up on the people we care about. Even when you should? Especially then." 3 days before the summit, they had a meeting with everyone on the ship. Nari laid out the final plan. Taesung would enter the summit with his forged credentials. Lyra would be there too, disguised as part of a different Velothian delegation. Hana, his colleague from Earth, would also be present. She was actually a galactic intelligence agent who had been investigating the genocide independently. She agreed to help create a distraction if needed. The summit runs for 3 days, Nari explained. On the final day, there's a closing ceremony. All delegates will be present. The ceremony is broadcast across the entire galaxy. That's when we strike. Taesung will access the broadcast system from a maintenance terminal. The evidence will upload automatically from his biochip. Every delegation, every news service, every world in the galaxy will see what Veloth has done. What about security? Someone asked. That's the tricky part. Once the upload starts, alarms will trigger. Security will lock down the entire station. We'll have maybe 5 minutes before they trace it back to Taesung. Nari looked at him seriously. You'll be arrested, possibly killed if the memory keepers get to you first. Are you prepared for that? Taesung's stomach twisted with fear, but he nodded. Yes, I'll be with him, Lyra said. If they come for him, they'll have to go through me. They'll come for both of you, Nari warned. This isn't going to end quietly, but if we succeed, if the evidence reaches the galaxy, the Council won't be able to suppress it. There will be consequences, justice, maybe. That night, Taesung couldn't sleep. He lay in the bunk, feeling the weight of the biochip under his skin. In 3 days, he would either be a hero or a corpse, possibly both. He thought about his life on Earth, his work, his apartment, his friends. Would he ever see any of it again? Lyra sensed his fear. Having second thoughts? Yes, but I'm not backing out. You could. I wouldn't blame you. I know. But this is bigger than us. Those people the Council killed, they deserved to live. They deserved a chance. If I can help give that to the ones who survived, then the risk is worth it. That's very human of you, Lyra said again. You keep saying that. What does it mean? She thought for a moment. Humans forget. You forget the reasons why things are impossible. You forget that you're small and weak compared to so many other species. You forget that the odds are against you, and because you forget, you do things that no sane being would attempt. You change the impossible to possible just by refusing to remember that it can't be done. Her markings glowed brighter. That's your strength. Your superpower. Forgetting. Taesung had never thought of it that way. Humans saw forgetting as a weakness, a limitation. They built databases and wrote things down because their memories were unreliable. But maybe Lyra was right. Maybe the ability to let go, to move past failure and trauma, to forget why something couldn't be done, that was what made humans special. If that's true, he said, then maybe the forgotten are the same. Maybe their ability to forget makes them stronger, not weaker. The Council will never accept that. Then we'll make them accept it. Or we'll tear down the Council and build something better. Lyra laughed softly. See, there it is again. That human confidence, that refusal to accept limits. It's terrifying and inspiring at the same time. Is that why you married me? I married you because you made me laugh. Because you were kind to everyone, even strangers. Because when you looked at me, you saw a person, not just an alien. And yes, because you had this crazy human hope that anything was possible if you just tried hard enough. She kissed him gently. I wanted some of that hope for myself. Even if I knew I could never truly forget my pain, being with you made it easier to carry. We're going to get through this, Taesung said. We're going to expose the truth, and then we're going to go home, together. You're forgetting that it's probably impossible. Good. That's what makes it possible. The ship continued toward Mars, toward the summit, toward a confrontation that would determine not just their fates, but the future of an entire species. Taesung was terrified, but he was also ready, because he was human and humans did impossible things all the time. They just forgot to remember that they couldn't. The Olympus station orbiting Mars was magnificent, massive rings of metal and glass spinning slowly to create gravity, with docking ports for hundreds of ships. Delegates from across the galaxy gathered here every 5 years to discuss trade, territory, and treaties. This year, representatives from 47 species attended. It was the largest summit in history. Taesung's hands shook as he presented his credentials at the security checkpoint. The guard, a tall insectoid being from a species he didn't recognize, scanned his documents with multiple eyes. The seconds stretched into eternities. Finally, the guard waved him through. He was in. The summit complex was enormous, corridors wide enough for the largest species-connected conference halls, dining areas, and diplomatic suites. Everywhere he looked, Taesung saw beings he'd only read about. Some walked on legs, Others floated. Some were roughly humanoid. Others defied easy description. The air smelled like a mixture of 100 different atmospheres, filtered and blended by the station's life support. He made his way to the human delegations area, where he was scheduled to present his fake research later that day. His real presentation would come during the closing ceremony tomorrow. If he could survive that long. Hana found him in the presentation hall. She looked different than she did on Earth. More official, more dangerous. Her credentials identified her as a cultural liaison. But Tae-sung now knew she worked for Galactic Intelligence, investigating cross-species crimes. "You look nervous," she said quietly. "I am nervous. I'm about to commit what's probably the biggest security breach in Summit history. You're also about to expose a genocide. That's worth a few broken rules." She glanced around to make sure no one was listening. "I've located the maintenance terminals. There's one near the central broadcast hub. During the closing ceremony, most of security will be focused on the main hall. That's your window. What about the memory keepers? Nari said they'd be here. They are. I've identified at least 6 of them posing as part of the Velothian diplomatic delegation. They're watching for any sign of Lyra or the other Forgotten. So far, they haven't noticed anything suspicious." Hana handed him a small device. "This will get you into the maintenance area. Once you're there, the biochip will do the rest. Just place your hand on the terminal and think the activation code Nari gave you." Tae-sung pocketed the device. "And if something goes wrong? Then run. I'll create as much chaos as I can to cover you. But Tae-sung, if the memory keepers catch you before the upload completes, they'll kill you. No trial, no hesitation. They're true believers. I know. I'm doing it anyway," she smiled. "That's the human spirit. Stupid and brave in equal measure." He spent the rest of the day pretending to be a normal delegate. He attended presentations. He made small talk with other xenobiologists. He ate lunch in the communal dining area, surrounded by beings discussing research and politics in a dozen languages. It all felt surreal, like he was watching himself from outside his body. That evening he saw Lyra. She was with a group of Velothians, her markings dimmed to blend in, wearing formal robes that marked her as a cultural advisor. Their eyes met across the crowd. She gave the smallest nod. She was ready. He also saw the memory keepers. They moved through the crowds like predators, eyes constantly scanning, looking for threats. One of them, a tall Velothian with dark red markings, seemed to be in charge. Foren, Nari had called him. The head of the memory keeper security detail. The one who had personally eliminated dozens of the Forgotten. Oren's eyes passed over Tae-sung without recognition. Just another human delegate. Nothing interesting. Tae-sung forced himself to breathe normally and kept walking. The closing ceremony was scheduled for noon the next day. Tae-sung barely slept that night. He went over the plan again and again in his mind. Wait for the ceremony to begin. Slip away during the opening speeches. Access the maintenance area. Upload the evidence. Then face whatever consequences came. Morning arrived too quickly. He dressed in his formal clothes, the ones he'd brought for his fake presentation. He checked that the access device Hana gave him was in his pocket. The biochip under his skin felt hot, though he knew that was just his imagination. The closing ceremony was held in the Grand Hall, a massive space with a domed ceiling that showed Mars rotating below. Thousands of delegates filled the seats arranged by species and world. At the front, a stage held the representatives of the Galactic Council, the 11 beings who administered galactic law and settled disputes between worlds. Tae-sung sat with the human delegation trying to look calm. Lyra was somewhere in the Velothian section. The memory keepers stood at the edges of the hall, watching everything. The ceremony began with speeches. The council leaders talked about peace and cooperation, about the importance of unity among species, about building a better future together. The irony wasn't lost on Tae-sung. How could they talk about unity while one of their member worlds was committing genocide? After 20 minutes of speeches, Tae-sung stood and quietly left his seat. A few people glanced at him, but no one stopped him. He walked calmly through the corridors, heading for the maintenance area. His heart pounded so hard he thought everyone could hear it. He reached the maintenance door and used Hana's device. It beeped once and the lock clicked open. He was inside. The corridor beyond was narrow and poorly lit, lined with pipes and cables. The broadcast hub was 50 meters ahead. He could see the glow of its screens. Then he heard footsteps behind him. He turned. Vorin stood at the entrance to the maintenance corridor, blocking the exit. The memory keeper's red markings glowed bright with anger. "Human," Vorin said. "You're very far from your seat. Very far from where you should be." Taesung's mind raced. He was still 30 meters from the broadcast terminal. Too far. He'd never make it before Vorin caught him. "I got lost," Taesung said. "Looking for a bathroom. Don't insult me with lies." Vorin stepped closer. "We've been monitoring you since you arrived. You're connected to the traitor Lyra. You're here to spread her lies. They're not lies. You know, they're not. The Forgotten aren't dangerous. They're just different. Different is dangerous. Different threatens everything we are. Everything we've built." Vorin pulled out a weapon, something that hummed with energy. "You'll come with me, quietly, or I'll kill you here and claim you were a terrorist." Taesung backed up slowly. His mind worked frantically. He needed more time. He needed to reach the terminal. But Vorin was faster, stronger, and armed. Then, behind Vorin, another figure appeared. Lyra. She moved silently, and before Vorin could react, she struck him with something. The memory keeper stumbled, his weapon falling. Lyra kicked it away and grabbed Taesung's hand. "Run!" They sprinted down the maintenance corridor. Behind them, Vorin roared in anger. Alarms began to blare. More footsteps echoed through the corridors. The other memory keepers were coming. They reached the broadcast terminal. Taesung placed his hand on the screen and thought the activation code. The biochip under his skin grew warm, then hot. Data began to flow from his body into the station's systems. "How long?" Lyra asked, watching the corridor. Nari said 5 minutes for the full upload. "We don't have 5 minutes." Vorin appeared at the end of the corridor, blood running down his face from where Lyra hit him. 3 other memory keepers flanked him. They all had weapons drawn. "It's over," Vorin said. "Step away from the terminal." "Not yet," Taesung said. The upload showed 30% complete. "Not enough. Not nearly enough." "Then die there." Vorin raised his weapon. Suddenly, chaos erupted in the grand hall. Through the walls they could hear shouting, alarms, explosions. Hana's distraction. It was working. The memory keepers hesitated, unsure whether to deal with Taesung or investigate the new threat. That hesitation cost them. Other figures appeared in the maintenance corridor. Nari and the Forgotten from their ship. They'd somehow gotten onto the station. They moved to block the memory keepers, weapons of their own drawn. "You're outnumbered," Nari told Vorin. "Walk away." "Never. I'll die before I let you spread your poison." 70% complete. Taesung kept his hand on the terminal, feeling the data flowing through him. Images of the genocide, testimonies from survivors, evidence that could not be denied or dismissed. The memory keepers opened fire. Nari's group returned fire. The narrow corridor became a war zone. Lyra pulled Taesung down, shielding him with her body as energy bolts flew overhead. 90%. Almost there. Vorin pushed through the fighting, obsessed with stopping the upload. He reached Taesung and grabbed him, trying to pull his hand from the terminal. Lyra attacked Vorin, but he was stronger. He threw her aside and raised his weapon. "Humanity's greatest weakness," Vorin snarled. "You forget that some battles can't be won." 95%. Taesung met Vorin's eyes. "And that's why we win. Because we forget it's impossible." 100%. Upload complete. In the grand hall and across every screen on the station, the broadcast ceremony feed cut out, replaced by images of memory keeper death squads, video of the Forgotten being eliminated, children crying as their parents were killed, documents showing council orders, testimonies from survivors like Rin, speaking directly to the camera about what had been done to their people. The entire galaxy watched. 47 species, billions of beings, all seeing the truth that Veloth Taesung woke up in a medical bay. His chest ached, and when he tried to move, sharp pain made him gasp. A medical drone hovered nearby, its sensors blinking. The walls were white and clean. Not a maintenance corridor. Not a prison cell. Somewhere safe. "Easy," a voice said. Hana appeared next to the bed. "You took a direct hit from an energy weapon. The medical team said you were lucky. A few centimeters to the left and you'd be dead." "The upload," Taesung managed to say. "Did it work?" Hana smiled. "See for yourself." She held up a tablet showing news feeds from across the galaxy. Every channel was showing the same thing. The evidence. The testimonies. The genocide. Some channels showed the Galactic Council in emergency session. Others showed protests on Veloth itself. Velothians demanding answers from their government. It worked, Hana said. The whole galaxy knows now. They can't hide it anymore. Lyra? Where's Lyra? I'm here. Lyra appeared on his other side, her bioluminescent markings glowing bright blue. She had tears on her face. You stupid, brave, wonderful human. You did it. You actually did it. Voran shot me. He did. Then Nari shot him. He's dead. Most of the memory keepers are dead or in custody. The rest fled. She took his hand carefully, avoiding the medical equipment. The Galactic Council declared the Forgotten a protected species. They've sanctioned Veloth. The Council of Memories is being dissolved. There are going to be trials. Justice. Real justice. Taesung closed his eyes, relief washing over him. It was done. They'd succeeded. The impossible thing had happened because they forgot to remember it was impossible. Over the next week, while Taesung recovered, the galaxy changed around them. The Velothian government collapsed. The progressives who had secretly opposed the genocide took power. They announced that the Forgotten would be welcomed home, that they were not abominations but the future of their species. Not everyone accepted this, but enough did that change became inevitable. Nari visited him in the medical bay. You saved us, she said simply. All of us. The Forgotten can go home now. We can stop hiding. We can live. What will you do? Taesung asked. Help rebuild. Show Veloth that forgetting isn't weakness. That letting go of pain doesn't mean losing who we are. She smiled. Maybe in a few generations all Velothians will have the ability to forget. Maybe we'll evolve into something new. Something better. That's a nice thought. It's more than a thought. It's possible now. Because of you. She stood to leave. Thank you, Taesung. From all of us. You're proof that humanity's greatest strength is exactly what everyone thinks is your weakness. After she left, Lyra climbed carefully onto the medical bed next to him. We can go home soon, she said. Back to Earth, back to our apartment. Back to our life. Do you want that? Taesung asked. To go back? I don't know. Everything's changed. I'm not the same person who left that note on our kitchen table. You're not the same person who came after me. No, we're better. She laughed softly. Maybe, or maybe we're just different. Maybe we need to figure out who we are now before we can decide where we belong. I belong with you, Taesung said, wherever that is. Even if I can never forget? Even if every bad thing that happens stays with me forever? Even then, because I'll forget enough for both of us. I'll forget the fear and the pain. I'll forget the reasons why things were hard. And I'll remember the important stuff. Like how much I love you. Like how you risked everything to protect me. Like how we changed the galaxy together. Lyra's markings glowed so bright they lit up the whole room. I used to think my perfect memory was a gift. Then I thought it was a curse. Now I think it's just what I am. And having you, with your ability to forget and move forward, that balances me. We're better together. Then let's stay together. No more running. No more leaving notes. No more protecting each other by pushing each other away. Deal. They returned to Earth a month later. The apartment looked exactly as Taesung had left it, except someone had cleaned out the old groceries. They stood in the doorway together, looking at this space that used to be their whole world. Feels smaller now, Lyra said. Everything does. After Europa and Mars and the summit, Earth seems almost quiet. Good, I could use some quiet. They spent the next few weeks settling back into life. Taesung returned to work at the Xenobiology Center. His colleagues treated him like a hero, which was embarrassing but also nice. Lyra started working with the Velothian refugees who were arriving on Earth, helping them adjust, teaching them that it was okay to be different. One evening, they visited a memorial garden that had been created for the Forgotten who died. It was a quiet place full of trees and flowers from different worlds. In the center stood a wall of names. Hundreds of them. All the Velothians who had been killed for being able to forget. Lyra touched one of the names. I remember them. All of them. Their faces. Their voices. The way they laughed. It's all still there in my mind, perfect and clear. Is that painful? Yes, but it's also beautiful. They're not really gone, not as long as I remember them. She turned to him. That's why I asked you to forget me back when I left. I thought if you forgot, the pain would go away. But now I understand that's not how it works. The people we love leave marks on us. Memory or forgetting, they stay with us. They change who we are. Tae-sung thought about his grandmother, the one who died when he was 12. He couldn't remember her face perfectly anymore. Some details had faded, but the love was still there. The impact she'd had on his life, the way she shaped who he became. "You're right," he said. "I don't remember everything about you leaving. The pain has faded. But the love hasn't, that stays. That's what matters." Lyra pulled out a small device. It was Velothian technology, a memory stone. "Watch," she said. She touched her bioluminescent markings to the stone and it glowed. "I just stored a memory. The first time you told me you loved me. Now it's not just in my mind. It's here, permanent and real. Anyone can access it. It becomes part of the world." She placed the stone in a slot at the base of the memorial wall. Around them, thousands of other stones glowed, each holding a memory of the forgotten. "This is how we honor them," Lyra explained, "by making sure their memories don't die. Even if we eventually forget them ourselves, these stones will remember." Tae-sung took her hand. They stood in silence, surrounded by the memories of the dead and the hope of the living. Somewhere on Veloth, the trials were beginning. Justice was slow, but it was coming. The galaxy had changed because two people refused to accept that some things couldn't be fought. As they walked through the garden, Tae-sung thought about everything that had happened. The empty apartment, the journey through space, the fear and fighting and desperate gamble that somehow worked. He was already forgetting some of it. The exact words Vorin said before shooting him, the precise layout of the maintenance corridor, small details that his human brain let slip away. But he remembered the important parts. He remembered why they fought. He remembered what they achieved. He remembered that love could transcend species, distance, and even the fundamental differences in how they experienced time and memory. "I have something for you," Lyra said when they reached the edge of the garden. She pulled out her own memory stone, one she'd been keeping private. "I want to add this to the collection, so it becomes eternal, so it's not just mine anymore." "What memory is it?" "The moment you found me on Europa, when you said you could never forget me, when I realized that maybe being remembered by someone who forgets is more precious than being remembered perfectly forever." She touched the stone to the memorial. Now anyone can know what that felt like. The fear and the hope and the love all mixed together. Tae-sung felt tears in his eyes. "I love you. I'll love you tomorrow. I'll love you even when I've forgotten why today was hard. I'll love you when the details fade and all that's left is the feeling. That's what humans do. We love imperfectly but completely." "And I'll love you always," Lyra said. "I'll remember every word you just said. I'll remember this moment, this feeling, this garden, forever. I'll carry it with me, perfect and unchanging. That's what Velothians do. We love with absolute clarity. Then we're perfect for each other, different but balanced." They left the garden hand in hand. Behind them, the memorial stones glowed with memories both kept and shared. Above them, stars filled the sky. The same stars that connected all the worlds of the galaxy. The same stars that proved that different species, different ways of thinking, different ways of experiencing life could exist together. That night, back in their apartment, Tae-sung made dinner while Lyra told him about her day helping the refugees. It felt normal, domestic, like the entire galaxy hadn't changed because of what they did. "Do you ever think about what happens next?" Lyra asked. "The trials could take years. There will be political fallout for decades. Velothian society is basically rebuilding itself from scratch. Sounds like they'll need experts. People who understand both Velothian culture and the forgotten. People who can bridge that gap. Are you suggesting we go back to Veloth? Maybe, eventually, if you want to. Or we stay here. Or we go somewhere completely different. As long as we're together, I don't care where we are."